And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon on this mild afternoon. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our wonderful and talented Ag Director, Bridgette Readel. What's the shirt say, Bridgette?
If you want my attention, talk to me about farming.
There you go. Well, isn't that the truth?
So it is. And this was from one of our guests. This was from the guys from Air Cedar Parts in Grand Forks, North Dakota. So thank you to them again. I have a whole collection of great ag shirts that I get to wear on a regular basis, but I like this one a lot. Awesome.
Well, we've got some really nice weather out there. Temperatures currently in the 40s across the area. And that's good news. Now, if we could keep it in the 40s, that would be ideal because we'd have a nice slow melt. But that's not what we're expecting as we head into later this week, as temperatures are going to warm up into the 50s and 60s. And then we've got rain following that, which is going to lead to some pretty rapid snow melt, and thus flood warnings have been issued for Thursday onward for the Red River, South Branch of the Buffalo River, and Wild Rice River. So we are going to see flooding, really, and we're used to it every year. We're used to it on the Red River. We're used to it on all of our tributaries. But this is going to be a pretty quick rise by Saturday. And depending on how much rain we get, it could be a little worse. We're expecting moderate flooding right now, but we've got 3 storm systems down the pipeline. One late this week into the weekend, one the middle of next week, and there will be one after that. Right now, they look like mainly rain, but let's not use. I'd like to say we could put that S word away for the season, but I'm not totally 100% convinced that we're done with the snow. I know that's not what you want to hear.
I hope you were going to. I was hoping you were going to say sleet or something. That would be a little bit easier than snow, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Yes, it really would. But as long as our models over the weekend, we're predicting a very major storm system with heavy, wet snow for us for Friday into Saturday. And right now they're backing off on that, which is good because that's a lot. I mean, we don't need the heavy rain, and I'm not seeing a lot of heavy rain, but some areas could pick up a half inch to an inch, and you combine that with the rapid snow melt, and thus the reason for the flood warnings that have been issued for later this week into the upcoming weekend. So, like I said, we're used to this every year, but we just don't want that rapid warm up like we're seeing this week, along with storm systems coming our way. So, hopefully, one of these storm systems will miss us to the south, and we won't have any major flooding. Although, again, not something I'm comfortable with that we would escape the major flooding if we had less snowpack and a slower warm up. I'd say probably, but yeah, I think we're gonna have some problems over the next few weeks. The way it looks right now.
Now, for those who are watching on Acres TV or Facebook Live and YouTube Live and are not in the Red River Valley of North Dakota, you may think it floods in North Dakota. Aren't y'all a prairie? Well, we are, except for the east side of the state, which is mostly a marshland. And then someone thought this was a great idea to run a railroad through here and put a bunch of towns. So it gets a little wet. If you would like to be paying attention to what's going on and you're in the metro area, you can go to www.metroflood.com. Metroflood.com. You can keep an eye on what's going on there. This is all going to continue to move northward. So by next week, we'll be giving you the link for what to watch in Grand Forks as we continue to watch this water move upwards. But I just want a quick announcement, and I had a farmer friend hand this off to me. There is a little church down around the Sheldon, North Dakota area called the Anselm Church, and it is a Lutheran church. They have an annual pork supper and bake sale. They had to move it out to April 30th because so much snow around the church, they were afraid of the church basement getting flooded.
Ooh.
And now they're concerned about roads maybe washing out. So if you were planning on going to the pork supper and bake sale at the Anselm Church, you might want to wait till April 30th instead of this coming weekend, the 16th. Just a heads up for everybody.
And the National Weather Service also wanted for the media to pass along a little bit of helpful hints when it comes to the flooding. And one of those is that there's been a lot of, with all the snow, some of the storm drains they're still blocked with ice. So if you live in and around a storm drain, you're noticing the water backing up, chip that ice away from those storm drains, because if that doesn't melt in time, that water can back up and end up in your basement instead of going down into the storm drains. So that's another little helpful hint as well, that if you live by one of those storm drains and it's iced over, see if you could chip it out with this warmer weather coming. That would help out a lot of situations with that.
I think that's going to be the case in a number of spots. I saw folks going out, moving snow away from their foundations. I have one buddy who his idea of helping that out is to get like charcoal, ground up charcoal, because it's black, laid on the snow, and it absorbs the sun's heat. It helps to melt some of his snow down and away from his house. So
that's a great idea.
There you go.
There's another nice little helpful tip.
Dean will be buying a big old bag of Kingsford barbecue briquettes later tonight, grinding those out in the kitchen. All right, good luck.
I like your thinking. I've got one topic I want to hit real quick before we go to break and introduce our guest. So, Bridgette, I emailed you this because I saw quite a bit on social media about this, that about injecting mRNA into cattle and pork. Is this a rumor? Is this false? Is this something that we're looking at?
And remember, all of this, and I will tell you, it's rumor. There's not a lot. There's some information in those articles that are being spread around, but they're not completely accurate.
Okay.
Shocking. Inaccurate information available on social media. Look at me be stunned. So understand when they're talking about mRNA, this is in vaccines that would be used in livestock, whether we're talking cattle, hogs, chickens, etc. And there have been a number of commodity organizations, whether it's National Pork Producers, National Cattlemen's, they have released statements reminding us that there are no current mRNA vaccines listed for use in cattle in the United States. Farmers and ranchers do vaccinate to prevent many diseases, but currently none have this technology in them. Is research being done with this technology? I think the short answer to that is yes, there is constantly research being done, but until it is approved by Food and Drug Administration, USDA, all the others, and with more technologies coming online, the input sessions from the public continue to be, the dates are broadcast, you have the chance to weigh in and learn the facts. And so I don't think something like this is going to be implemented until we know more. And as of right now, there is not a vaccination that's done in livestock in the U.S. with this technology in it.
And for those that are not familiar with it, what is mRNA and how could it affect our livestock?
Okay, so what they're looking for is, if you remember, there was a whole, and I'm going to find the actual simple definition of it. This was a whole big discussion that was actually taking place at the time of coronavirus coming out, right? When we went through COVID-19.
Right.
So a lot of people had concerns about that. When we talk about the mRNA, this is where it can literally train the body to make a specific protein that can help your immune system. There has been a lot of work done with it for decades because you yourself are made of many proteins, and proteins like insulin is a protein that the body uses to control their sugar levels. What this work is being done is, how can you get the RNA within your body to talk differently to help your body help itself. But again, these things are not being done in livestock. They're not, because I've seen some of the stories too, and they're saying, oh, we're already treating our livestock. We're not. You are not getting a vaccine that you are unaware of through any of the proteins that you eat when it comes to pork, beef, etc. Does that help?
Gotcha. Yeah.
How's that, Dean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we're getting a little. Now, I will tell you this as a headline: food and hunger around the world is a concern for national security. And so when you have folks that are hungry, they fight over food and water. And so that leads to wars and so forth. With what has happened in the last few years with COVID-19, drought factors, as well as food shortages, the war in Ukraine, we are seeing more of a concern that people are not able to get food in the manner in which they need to because there's been so many hiccups in supply chain, etc. Every 1 in 10 people on the planet is affected by hunger. And so we, as a country, can do more to help teach others, because often some of the poorest countries have an agricultural focus. People are trying to grow their own food to survive. We can try to help with that, but we also need to understand that in many places around the world, even in the U.S., Food insecurity can lead to concerns with national security, and that is a focus for many government officials these days.
Right. All right. We have a
Just
guest
trying to
coming.
tie it all in.
Yeah.
We do.
We have a guest coming on today.
And this is going to be Rick Clark. He is from Indiana. Rick is a farmer. His practices include organic and regenerative farming. We're going to talk about what that really means. And for those who are watching the live stream, you will see he's got a crimper and he's rolling down some rye that he is using as like a green type fertilizer. And he's going to literally dig that into the soil so that instead of using synthetic fertilizer, this would provide its own organic matter, et cetera. And we're going to want to ask him a lot of questions about how these things work and the practices that he does. Rick actually was a suggestion from a listener. So I'm hoping said listener is here today so he can hear and see all the things that Rick is going to share with us. And for those who do listen regularly, don't be afraid to ask if there's something you want to know more about. We'd be happy to track that source down for you. And we'll get Rick up and ready to roll, and we will be back just after a check of all of the commercials, etc. So hang on, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, John Adams here. I hope you'll join me on WDAY Radio for my new talk show, Talk of the Town with John Adams. Every Wednesday from 11 to noon, we'll talk about issues that affect us all in the Fargo-Moorhead community. We'll talk taxes, the diversion, places to go and things to do, and of course, Bison and Viking football. We'll talk about issues that affect everyone in this great community that we call home. That's Talk of the Town with John Adams, Wednesdays at 11 on WDAY Radio.
Farmers know a thing or two about being tough, and they hold their wheat to that same standard. Their fields need to be able to take on anything, because there's no telling what tomorrow has in store. That's why Westbred brand wheat offers varieties like the new WB 9606, offering good stress tolerance, and WB 9719, offering outstanding yield potential and excellent standability. Meet your standards of excellence. Plant Westbred. Performance may vary.
When it comes to cereal disease protection, Prosaro Pro 400 SC fungicide from Bayer makes all the difference. With 3 effective active ingredients for overlapping control of foliar and head diseases, and a flexible application window for head scab, it's formulated to lower DON, protect yield potential, and promote superior grain quality. Prosaro Pro, the future of plant health starts here. Visit prosaropro.com to learn more. Always read and follow grain marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions.
Spring has sprung, and you know what that means, Fargo-Moorhead. Time to start cleaning up after old man winter. And what better way to kick off spring season than fixing or replacing your broken or damaged windshield? The team at Glass Doctor of Fargo-Moorhead, they're concerned about your well-being, so hurry in. Say hello to crystal clear view of spring potholes and construction signs. And lucky you, Glass Doctor won't break the bank, so you can still buy groceries. Glass Doctor of Fargo-Moorhead. Don't let those chips and cracks become a pain in your glass.
Call the Glass Doctor, we'll fix your pains.
You can always count on Miller High Life, the champagne of beers. Always crisp, always easy drinking, always just right. The perfect balance of flavor and refreshment since 1903. Welcome to the High Life. 2019 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Celebrate responsibly.
Hi, it's Lon from Irie Insurance. Soon we'll swap snow for summertime. Boat rides and water skiing, camping in the RV, swimming in the backyard pool, or even a few rounds of golf. Unfortunately, these activities come with increased risks, and sadly, accidents happen. Having the proper insurance can protect you from theft, damage, liability, and more. Experience the Irie difference. Let Irie Insurance take care of your summer risks. To find a location near you, visit us at IrieInsurance.com.
Hey, buddy, what are you doing?
Just doing my part, putting my stuff in my blue container.
You know, you can't recycle all that scrap metal, only aluminum.
Just aluminum? What am I supposed to do with it?
Well, it's scrap metal. Maybe take it to the scrap dealer?
Ooh, then I can get paid.
Yeah, there you go. Only aluminum when it comes to the blue containers in your recycling, and always keep hazardous waste out of the blue container.
All right, I got it.
And remember, no more glass in your blue recycling containers. For more info, go to MinCotaRecycling.com.
Foston Tri-Co-op is hiring an agronomy manager. Must have sales and agronomy experience, able to sell crop protection, fertilizer, and chemicals. College degree in agronomy or equal experience is preferred. Enjoy competitive salary and benefits including health, long-term disability, dental, life insurance, HAS, paid vacation, and retirement match and profit sharing. Email resume to jen.howard@fostoncoop.com or call 218-435-6919 and ask for Brent. Foston Tri-Co-op, hiring an agronomy manager, and it could be you.
Pucklet Chevrolet Buick GMC in Valley City makes it easy to find your next Chevrolet Buick GMC or pre-owned vehicle by offering a great selection at our best prices possible.
And welcome back to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Bridgette Readel, Ag Director, joined by Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. And today we are back and visiting with one of our guests. Ooh, before I forget, don't forget that if you want to go ahead and call in and join us in our conversation, we welcome you to reach us at 701-293-9000. That's the Red Wing Shoes phone line. We are happy to take your calls, and maybe our guest, who it happens to just be Rick Clark from Indiana, maybe Rick has some things that he wants to answer for people. You just never know. So Rick is a farmer in Indiana. As I said, he is an organic and regenerative farmer, and we have all sorts of questions for you, Rick, but please introduce yourself to our listeners here on WDAY.
How's everyone doing today? It's great to be here. Thank you, Bridgette, for having me. My name is Rick Clark. I'm a fifth-generation farmer from West Central Indiana, and we farm about 9 or 10 different crops now. It's corn, soybeans, wheat, alfalfa, peas, milo, cover crop, cattle, and sheep. And we're trying to implement the 6 principles of soil health, and we're trying to improve soil health on the farm, and we're also trying to improve human health. That's the 2 main goals on the farm.
And Rick, for those that aren't familiar with the type of farming that you do, define regenerative. Well, it's Monday. Regenerative farming. Sorry, for those that aren't familiar with that.
Right. Regenerative is a concept where you're going to start implementing the principles of soil health. If you don't know what that is, please Google that. There are 6 principles. The first 4 work anywhere around the world, and then the 5th one is context, and the 6th is livestock. But to get to regenerative, you need to start taking away inputs, taking away tillage, start reducing the fertilizers you use, the chemicals you use. All of these things need to be in a reduction mode. And it all boils down to context. Where are you in the world? You know, I'm in West Central Indiana. The place that I usually use to describe where we're from is Champaign, Illinois. Everybody seems to know where that is. Come straight east into Indiana, and we're right there. We farm on both sides of the line. But so in other words, where we are, we have very good soil, inherent soil, 3, 4, 5% organic matter. So we can do a lot of these things. We can push the envelope really hard. But now let's go to an area that has 1% organic matter, and you probably can't push the envelope as hard as we are because you don't have that inherent material there to help you get through this major reduction mode. So hopefully that answered your question, but it's basically reducing tillage, reducing chemistry, and reducing fertility.
And is this a more expensive way to farm than your typical?
No. On our farm right now, and like, you know, again, let's describe who we are. We are not only are we organic, we're beyond organic. We are doing this with no tillage. So this is all cover crops. We've eliminated all inputs. We've not put any P or K on our farm now in 9 years. No nitrogen in 4. And we are trying to work with Mother Nature, and we're trying to do this at scale. And right now, on a very conservative number, we are saving between $2 million and $2.5 million a year on inputs on our farm right now.
So, Rick, I have a question. When you said you are putting that material back in the ground, okay, and for those who didn't see the live stream, I saw you had, I believe it was standing rye, but you also had some alfalfa that you were planting corn directly into, and you were taking the rye
Right.
down, but you're not using tillage. So, how is that breaking down after you plant the other crop? You're not desiccating or anything like that. So, can you give me a picture of what that's
Right.
looking like?
Yeah, let's just stick with the soybeans first, okay? Well, no, let's do corn because that's
Okay.
the video you're showing right now. So we are
Okay.
planting corn into standing alfalfa. Now, what the like
Mm-hmm.
first thing I have to, Bridget, the first thing I have to emphasize here is this is risky. This is extremely risky, and it requires a system that's ready for this to happen to. And
Yes.
we need some help from Mother Nature, meaning we need some rain events to occur here. So let's go through it. What we're looking for is a 50% bloom on the alfalfa. And the reason why I'm doing this late is because I want the alfalfa to think that its job is done. If you think about every organism in this world has one objective, and that one objective is to procreate. That's it. That's what every organism is designed to do. Procreate, make offspring so that that lineage continues on in the future. The parent plant dies and you have the seeds there. So that's why we let the alfalfa go to 50% bloom, because it's about done. It's ready to make seed, and it's not going to be pulling much moisture, and it's not going to be pulling many nutrients that this corn crop needs. So we go in and we no-till into this. Then we come back when the corn is at V2, so second leaf,
Okay.
and we will roll
Uh-huh.
it down with the I&J roller crimper.
Okay.
Now, Bridget, this is not going to terminate the alfalfa. We know that. All we're trying to do is flatten the alfalfa down and give our corn plant a spot to come up through this and take off and start growing. Then when you get to this point, we need a rain event. And then the corn, if all goes well, will take off and grow above this alfalfa. And we are on 20-inch row
Mm-hmm.
spacing, okay? So
Okay.
now the corn gets to canopy, cash crop canopies real quick. And then, Bridget, that's what starts to terminate the alfalfa. When you take away the sunlight and you start to take everything away from it and you canopy it, it will absolutely terminate it. Now, if you go
Yeah.
back to the very first fields that we did this in 4 years ago, there is no alfalfa in these. I mean, there may be a clump here and there and over there, but nothing like it was the day we planted it. It's absolutely incredible the power that cash crop canopy has to suffocate and terminate that alfalfa.
Okay, so Rick, we're coming up at the bottom of the hour here pretty shortly, but before that, in that last minute before we do that, quick question for you: what are you using for corn day length maturities for that situation? Because I think about, and again, I'm a lot further north than you are, so I'm thinking about this alfalfa in full bloom, the time that it takes
Right.
to get there. But what are you doing for your maturity for your corn?
Yeah, we used to plant 112 to 116 day corn. We now plant
Uh-huh.
95 to 104 day corn. Now,
Okay.
again, Bridget, we have to understand this is not a system that's geared toward yield. Now, I know yield
Mm-hmm.
is important, but yield is not what drives this system. It's soil health, it's human health, and it's working with Mother Nature. So, and I know I think you got to go to a commercial here, and I'll make this real quick. I've got a saying that I say every time I present somewhere: do I sacrifice soil health, or do I sacrifice yield to maintain soil health? Yes, every single day I do that. So we have to follow the principles, and we have to build a system around soil health and human health.
Rick, I am so looking forward to continuing this conversation. And again, for those who are just joining us, we're talking with Rick Clark. He is in West Central Indiana, and he uses regenerative as well as organic farm practices on his operation. We're going to visit with him. We'll have more questions, and you can reach us 701-293-9000, the Red Wing Shoes hotline. We'll be right back.
On the next Coffee Club with Janae and Ronnie.
It's Tuesday, and thanks to Luther Family Ford, we feature another amazing nonprofit. This week, Pride and Joy Rescue Ranch.
Also, we'll keep you up to date on all the latest weather information. There's a big storm system potentially coming in for this weekend and what it might mean to the flood potential in the area.
Great Harvest Bear Trivia and Did You Knows?
The Coffee Club, weekdays 8:30 to 11 on AM 970 and 93.1 FM WDAY.
Now is the perfect time to upgrade your kitchen with new appliances from Regal's. Get up to $2,000 back on select GE Profile appliances now through June 1st, featuring the latest smart home technology, providing a simpler and smarter cooking and cleaning experience. Smart technology meets unbeatable prices, plus free delivery and free recycling of your old appliances. Find out why for over 75 years Regal's has delivered value. Regal's, 609 Main Avenue, Moorhead.
What do eyewear and weather have in common? Join us for the Aspire Optical Eye on the Sky weekly weather forecast to find out. Each Tuesday morning, Dean Wysocki, Justin Storm, and myself, Ashley Freeborn, owner of Aspire Optical, will bring you the 7-day forecast.
You never know where we'll be or how it will be presented, but we promise to bring you the most accurate forecast this side of the Red River.
And learn how you can save big on eyewear from Aspire Optical.
Watch the Aspire Optical Eye on the Sky weekly weather forecast on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages.
Trust us, this is weather and eyewear like you've never seen.
After the indictment, the big media spin is all against President Trump. But one cable news channel leads the way in real news. That's Newsmax. I watch it all the time. Now the Newsmax poll is asking Americans if the Trump indictment is for a real crime or just politics. And the Newsmax poll asks if you still support Trump for president in 2024. You can vote right now. Just text the word ZONE to 39747. That's ZONE to 39747. It takes just a minute. And tune in to Newsmax with great hosts like Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, Eric Bowling, and a lot more. Newsmax on all major cable systems and streaming TVs. So vote now in the Newsmax poll about the Trump indictment and his run for president. Text ZONE to 39747. And make sure your voice is heard.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right, but right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
And welcome to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Bridgette Readel, Ag Director, along with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, and joined today by our guest from West Central Illinois, and that would be Rick Clark. He is a regenerative and organic farmer with lots of practices and common sense advice for us to be using. So I do have one question, and then I know Dean has a whole list. And my question actually revolves around weed control, because I'm sort of good at raising things. I'm a lot better at killing them off. And when you think about weed control on your operation, Rick, are you using some of the things that we talk about as really cool, the weed zappers, the blasters, whether it's fire, electric, etc.? Are you doing any of those types of things, or are you using your cover crop more accurately to do it?
We don't use anything with a flame because we have so much mulch and thatch that we'd catch the whole field on fire. So that's out.
Okay.
We do use a weed zapper occasionally, but I'm going to be honest with you, Bridgette. I think I'm done using that piece of machinery because it's like 7,000 or 8,000 volts of electricity, and I honestly think we're hurting our biology with that zapper running through the field, I think that electrical conductivity is killing some of the biology. And so now when you get down to what are we doing, it's all about the biomass of the cover crop and the suppression that it does. And then, like I talked about earlier with the canopy of the corn, we count on the same thing on soybeans. We count for that cash crop canopy, and that suppresses the weeds below the canopy. So we're trying to do this with the cover crop, the biomass from the cover crop, and then the cash crop canopy to finish the rest. The rule I have on this, Bridgette, is it's a 70-30 rule. 70% of the suppression of weeds is coming from the cover crop. The other 30% is coming from the cash crop canopy.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And Rick, I know you said earlier that you do have to sacrifice yield, but you're saving over roughly $2 million per year.
Right.
Now, how do you know how many farmers are there more farmers gravitating towards this practice? I know you said, you've got some of the best soil. I grew up suburbs of Chicago. It's a huge farming area, central Illinois. Do you have to have a certain kind of soil to farm this way?
No, and Dean, that's a good question. The only thing that I really wanted to clarify when I talked about the context was, we need to treat the soil differently in the Midwest than we would, let's say, in the Southwest, okay? Down in Arizona, let's say, or New Mexico. Much more fragile soil. You're not going to be able to take all the inputs away like we have here and have that be a successful situation. So now we have to figure out, okay, how far can we push that envelope, and can we reduce inputs by, say, 40%? Can we stop tilling in the Southwest and preserve that moisture in the profile more? And that's how I would have to go in and look at a situation. So we have a company called Farm Green, and it's a consulting company, and we have to be very careful that when we consult, if we don't make on-site visits, that we understand the whole story before we can make recommendations, because you can get someone in a lot of trouble here by giving the wrong recommendations. Now, to answer your original question, though, are there people migrating toward what we're doing? Yes. And the way I like to describe this, Dean and Bridgette, is, just look at your room and put us clear over on the right-hand side of your room. And we're over here with organic, no tillage, no chemistry, no anything. All inputs have pretty much been taken away. And then go to the other side of the room to the folks who are either doing nothing or very little. There's all kinds of room for us to meet in the middle and figure out what can we do to make a plan, a systematic plan to reduce your synthetic inputs and start to get your farm on track to become a regenerative, systematic farm.
Interesting. So the crops that you're raising, obviously they're healthier, and are they more expensive? You said you're losing, you have to lose yield, but are they more expensive to raise?
Oh, no, they're not more expensive to raise, but being organic, we are getting paid more money to raise them. Maybe that's what you meant by your question.
Okay.
I think that's what you meant. So in other words, Dean, we can get about $12 a bushel for corn and about $25 or $26 a bushel for soybeans. So it's about a double. It's almost a double shot on both the local corn price and the local bean price. It's a little less than a double, but it's almost there. So what I like to do, and I'm totally transparent. When I go out and speak around the world, I tell them the good stuff and I tell you the bad stuff. And I'm going to tell you some bad stuff right now. Before we went to organic, we were doing a very good job of raising corn and beans on an increasing yield year after year with a 70% reduction of inputs. Okay, so we reduced inputs by 70% and yield was still going up. Then when we jumped into organic, we took a 30 to 35% reduction in yield right off the bat. Boom. because of we don't any longer have the easy button of chemistry to push and the easy button of tillage to push. So we have but that's okay. So we were at 200 bushel corn, just for easy math, a 30% reduction takes you down to 140 bushel corn. We'll take 140 bushel times $12 and then subtract our inputs. Oh, that's right, we don't have any. Well, then you're left with quite a few dollars that are net. And that's what this is all about. This is not about winning the yield contest. This is about winning the return on investment contest. And who can make the most money, return net dollars per acre, and still be a good steward to the land. And that's what our whole system is all about.
I mean, this seems like a no-brainer. I mean, it's great. It's you're a good steward. Yeah. Soil health. Why aren't more people? Again, I know you said you have your consulting firm, but do you see this as the future to farming?
Yes. I don't want to say the word mandate because that's too strong of a word to use, but there is going to come a time in the near, and when I say near future, guys, I mean 10 years or less, maybe 5. There's going to be changes drastically made to the way we apply chemistry and the way we apply fertilizer. And it's going to have to change if we're going to save our water supplies. I mean, if I was a municipality anywhere in the United States, I would be deeply concerned on how where my water's coming from and what is happening to the farm ground that sits above that water supply. I mean, you can look all around the country and see problems of runoff nitrogen, runoff potash, runoff phosphates, and you can see it. You got you got the Gulf of Mexico, you got Lake Erie up to the north. All of these issues are done because of over fertilizing and not enough care taken to preserve that fertilizer that's put in place. I mean, if you want the best nitrogen stabilizer you can have, you need to be putting your nitrogen into a cover crop and let that cover crop become the sponge and hold that nitrogen in place, and then let the microbes convert that nitrogen into an organic form, and then you are as stable as you can possibly be. That nitrogen cannot leach out of the profile when it becomes organic. The only way that nitrogen can leave the profile is if the soil leaves the profile. So all of this is an absolute no-brainer. I mean, Dean, when I think about I don't know what type of person, how you think, but I like to put down on a piece of paper, you put a pro column and a con column. What's good about what you're trying to do and what's bad about what you're trying to do. And when I do this on a piece of paper, my whole side of the page that's the pros is filled up, and I don't have one negative on the negative side of the sheet of paper. That right there tells you that this is a way that you should be farming. Now, do you have to farm the way that Clark Land and Cattle Farms? No, you do not have to do everything that we do, but let's look at how do we start to do 10% reduction, 20% reduction, 30% reduction, and then let's take it from there. Now, I want to ask myself a question, if you don't mind, because I know we're going to run out of time here.
Sure.
I'd like to ask myself a question, if you don't mind. The question, and this may be coming, but I want to make sure this gets out before we run out of time. What do we have to do to make this happen across large acres? We need to have teachers, okay? I come in and folks like me come in and we are asked to speak at a conference, and we'll have 400 people there. And when I'm done speaking to that crowd, I mean, everyone is up and they're like, yes, we can do this. Let's go. Well, then what happens? Rick gets in his truck and he drives home. We need the support group in place that takes whatever Rick said or anyone like me said and help that farmer implement those practices, hold their hand, whatever you want to call this. I like to call it a support group, and we have to give them the help they need to make sure they have success, the first time they do this, because guys, if they don't have success the first time, they're going to say, I told you so.
Right.
I told you
That's
this
right.
would not work on our farm.
And like you said, it's got to be in those steps, right, Rick? Because not everybody's going to immediately have the access to doing the things that you do with cover crop, with livestock, et cetera. And so it's that, where do you want to start? And if you were to give that piece of advice to someone, where's the first thing that you would suggest that they start doing if they want to do it differently for their own operation?
Yeah, I always like to suggest we start cover crops with soybeans. I like cereal rye and I like soybeans. Those two together, they have a very good synergy, and they get together very well. So I think you've been showing some video clips there. We like to go in and what I would at least recommend is to, if you're going to go to the effort to do a cover crop, then let's at least try to plant green. Okay, that means we're going to plant our cash crop into a green growing cover crop. Now, let's say you're still using chemistry. I'm okay if at the beginning, if you still want to use chemistry to terminate this cover crop, but let's at least plant the beans green into that standing rye and then wait 2 or 3 days and then come in. And if you think you need to, then let's terminate the rye with the cover or with the chemical burn down. But now I want to add something here. I never used to do this because I was not aware of this at the time we did this. I would add a humate to every load of chemistry that goes out to your field. So a humic acid or some kind of a humate. You can get this stuff out of New Mexico. You can get it out of Canada. I would add this to this tank load that you're going to go out and spray, because this will help the biology bounce back quicker from this chemistry pass you're going to put out there. I wish I would have known this 10 or 15 years ago. These are just little things now that I've learned, that I think the folks listening should do this. And if, let's start with one species of cover crop, and then as you get comfortable with this and become more willing to get more creative, then let's add diversity and add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more species to this, but still with the intention that cereal rye is going to be the main staple of the species that survive this cocktail, and then you plant your beans into that next spring.
And Rick, you said earlier that this type of farming, and I might have misheard you, but I thought you said that it relies a lot on timely precip. So if you're going into the season knowing, oh man, we're going to have drought conditions this year, is it still achievable?
Yes, I was referring to the moisture into that corn scenario of corn into the living alfalfa.
Okay.
Yes, if this is in an arid environment where you folks may be, this goes to context again. I mean, here we get 30 to 34 inches of rain a year. Now, is it all exactly at the time of year you want it? Maybe, maybe not, but we still get that amount of rain. So yes, we have many pluses here, guys. We've got better inherent soil, we've got higher organic matter, we've got higher water holding capacity, and we get more rain than a lot of people get in the country. So we got like 4 check boxes already checked off, and that's a big bonus towards success. Now, let me answer your question a little differently here, Dean. If you are in a situation where you've heard me talk or somebody else talk about these practices, you're willing to try and get started, and you're still in a chemistry program, but there is talk of a drought coming to your area, I would probably think about terminating that cover crop with your chemistry sooner than later, so that cover crop does not take away the moisture that you may need for your cash crop. Now, this is if you have a monoculture of just cereal rye growing. But if, believe it or not, in an arid environment, you want to have as many species as you possibly can to achieve the better chances of success. So if I was to be in, and I'm going to call an arid environment, 12 inches of rain or less, you do not want to go in with a single species cocktail. You want to go in with a 12-way cocktail and you will absolutely benefit huge from having a multi-species cocktail versus a monoculture cocktail.
Rick, we cannot say thank you enough for joining us today. We have had the great pleasure of visiting with Rick Clark. He is in West Central Indiana. He uses farming practices that are regenerative as well as organic on his farm. Folks, if you are interested in following him, you can find him at farmgreen.land. And we're going to catch up with our American Ag Network. We'll be right back. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Do you have an unsightly or hazardous tree on your property that needs to be removed? Look no further than Tyler's Tree Service. Their team of expert tree removal professionals has the experience and equipment needed to safely remove any tree from your property, big or small, offering competitive pricing and exceptional customer service. You can trust us to get the job done right the first time. Don't let a dangerous or unsightly tree ruin your property. Go to tylerscut.com. Tyler's Tree Service. No stick left behind.
And joining us now, Westbred Technical Product Manager Justin Berg as we talk about best practices before spring planting. Justin, how could seed treatment application protect against early season diseases and insects?
Yeah, with a product like Raxel Pro or Raxel Pro Shield, multiple modes of action give those wheat seedlings significantly higher control of our early season fungal diseases, such as Pythium. Also, with the addition of an insecticide in their seed treatment, we have seen drastic improvements in wheat stands, especially when they were exposed to wireworms.
Justin, why does timing matter so much when preparing to plant?
Most of the spring wheat that we have up here in the northern region will germinate in that 45 to 50 degree soil temperature. So by waiting for this soil to warm up a little in the spring, it ensures those seedlings are not exposed to cold soils for long durations and causing some unneeded stress. Looking outside today, we're going to have plenty of moisture in the topsoil this year, so we shouldn't have any concerns there.
Get more information online at westbred.com.
They'll have you laughing right along with them. They're Bonnie and Friends.
Real masquerade party? I think I would do it.
I would too.
Who would you go as?
I don't know.
Because you got to really do it up.
I can't carry that off. I'd have like a mask that you hold in your hand with sparkles on it and like a little foo-foo with feathers coming out of my head.
No.
I wouldn't look like anybody.
Somebody out there could dress you to the nines in a costume and nobody would know until you opened your mouth. Of course, they'd know it was you. You know.
That's true.
Bonnie and Friends. Catch them weekday mornings beginning at 5.
Quiet action in the markets to start the week. This is the American Ag Network. of Jesse Allen with this market update as we talk now with Arlen Suderman, Chief Commodities Economist at StoneX. Arlen, as we look at the market trade on Monday, coming back from the 3-day holiday weekend for Easter, fairly quiet so far, as I assume traders probably assessing any weekend headlines and the weather and trying to get a handle on where things stand. What's your take on this grain and oilseed trade today?
Yeah, somewhat of a malaise over the markets today following the 3-day holiday weekend. They're a little bit slow to wake up. The jobs market that came out on Friday, yes, we did have a big government report on a holiday. It came out on Friday, really arguing for another rate hike from the Federal Reserve. It was a pretty solid jobs report. So that started things off a little bit of a negative tone. Even though we had rallied the grain and oil seeds overnight, we quickly turned negative on expectations that the Federal Reserve is going to take us into a recession. But then the grain and oil seeds just couldn't stay down. They all rallied then into mid-morning, but then soybeans have struggled to hold those gains. Corn has remained the strongest of the three as we go forward. Some concerns about Russia once again making threats about the grain initiative coming out of Ukraine. It insists that that grain initiative was only for 60 days. That means the end of it is only 30 days away, and so it's positioning now for the next negotiation round and raising the risks that we might see reduced shipments out of Ukraine going forward. In fact, some of the countries to the west of Ukraine that had been accepting grain over land are now putting restrictions on that grain. So that may tighten up the supplies of corn and wheat, and that's raising more focus on weather problems here in the United States, especially for hard red winter and hard red spring wheat.
That's Arlen Suderman of StoneX on the American Ag Network.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. And boy, I want to say, whatever guest recommended him, Bridgette, can we?
That was a listener.
Yeah, one of our listeners, if you can track who that is, if you can track down who that is, I would love to send them a rain gauge. That was a wealth of information. Just unbelievable. And the first thing I thought of was, well, you're going to lose yield, like he said, but you gain that back in terms of the cost, and like he said, what, he's saving $2 million a year, and you're helping the soil health and just everything. It was amazing.
Everything about what you do in farming is about a balance, about finding what works best for you, especially because we're here for profit. If we weren't, that's called volunteerism, and it's hard to run a business that way. So I think the things that Rick talks about, the principles, are outstanding. And I'll go back through my email. I think I can find who suggested him as one of our listeners, and it was great to have that. Also, we did have an email ask, what's a cover crop to those who are non-farmers? And we talk about cover crop a lot in the conversation with Rick, but just on a daily basis here. I want you to think about a cover crop as something that is planted to hold the soil in place, that can act as a green fertilizer, if you will. So let's use the example of your lawn. Instead of Kentucky bluegrass, what if you were planting a cereal rye? And then for your garden, you just went out and dug small holes right into the lawn, planted your tomato plants or your corn or your row of beans, and then that lawn would act as a way to keep the soil in place. It holds moisture into the soil for you, and as your plants in your garden get bigger, they literally will compete with the lawn, and so then the lawn would lose while the bigger plants get to take more of the nutrients like the sunlight, the water, etc. So that's a really simplified way of looking at cover crop, but we do it with alfalfa. We do it with all sorts of millet mixtures, with cereal rye and other cereal crops as well.
And Bridgette, did I hear him right that he's only been doing this for 4 years, right around there?
He mentioned that he has been using no potassium, no P and K on his farm for 9 years, no nitrogen or synthetic nitrogen in his opinion for 4 years. So those are a couple different things that they were doing. We didn't even get into how he got certified organic, if that's federal, state, all of his crops, if that affects his livestock operation as well. So lots more things though that people can go to Rick's website to look at as well.
Yeah, very interesting. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, let's take a quick look at the forecast. Flood warnings are in effect for the Red River, wild rice, and just basically most of the Buffalo River as well, starting Thursday and onward, as we're expecting warm weather to continue this week. That's going to lead to rapid snowmelt, and then we have about a half inch to an inch of rain on the way from Thursday through Sunday. So that's going to aggravate the flooding situation. And we've got 2 more storms behind the one that's hitting late this week into the following week, and then one after that as well. So we're all used to flooding. We are expecting at least moderate flooding out of this. And depending on how these storms line up, we could be looking at major flooding, especially in the Southern Valley, as we head towards the end of the month. So please keep that in mind. There's going to be some your typical road closures that get closed during the flooding as well. But at least we'll enjoy some mild weather, at least through most of this upcoming week. So that'll do it today for Weather and Ag in Focus. For Bridgette and myself, we want to thank you for joining us. And stay tuned. Coming up here at in about 20 seconds, it'll be the Jay Thomas Show. Have a great day.
AM 9